All right, so section 1.2, we're going to start talking about how do you graph some of these functions. So in the previous section, we started talking about the different types of functions. What were the basic different types of functions that I showed you on the board that you had to determine if it was a function or not? I gave you 4 different types. Numerical, algebraic, verbal, and graphical. What was the example of the numerical ones that I gave you? There were 2 different order pairs, XY table, and maybe a mapping with the arrows drawn from one to the other one. What was the algebraic one? When we say algebraic function, usually what are they going to give you? In some type of equation or function, they're going to give you that. And of course, graphical means a graph. So we're okay with that, right? Now I want to show you the graphing tool that we're going to use. In other classes, they use something called graph, and if you have used it before and you like it, you are more than welcome to use it because that's what the rest of the department uses. I am the only professor that uses Desmos. I just think it's easy to use and it's easy for you to understand, and it's very, very, very user-friendly. So that's why I chose Desmos. So we can go there. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go there in a second so you can actually see what that screen looks like. So I'm going to say, so here we're going to start talking about plotting the points. You're going to plot them in Desmos. So we're going to go there so you can actually see it. This page just says the same thing. We're going to use the same tool. All right, so here's what we're going to do first. We're going to go do this first, and then we're going to go to Desmos and see how to use Desmos. So first page, here we are. It says complete the table for the function y equals x to the third power. Plot the points, plot the values for x and y as points in a coordinate plane, and then draw a curve to connect the points. Alrighty, so literally what we want to do is, do you see input values up here on the screen? Okay, what do we usually do with input values? Plug them in, right, to something. Did they give you an equation to plug them into? Yeah, so we want to go ahead and do that. So if you'll go ahead and help me do that, we'll go ahead and plug those numbers in. Tell me what you should get if you plug those numbers in. All right, so you said -3. I plug in -3. What am I going to get? Use your calculator if you need to. Calculators are your friend in this class. So -3 raised to the third power. How much is that? -27. -27. Then you've got -2 raised to the third power. What is that? All righty, -1 is, all right, 0. That's the easiest one. It's going to be 0. Then, of course, I got 1 raised to the, it's going to be 1. 2 raised to the third power is, and 3 raised to the third power is 27. All right, so you have points here. Now, we wrote it in an XY table. Can I also write these in order pairs? Yes. Yeah, it's your choice whether you like to see them as order pairs or whether you like to see them in XY table. Perfectly fine. So we already have all the answers, all the outputs to those numbers that you plugged in. So now what I want you to go do is go put this in a table so you can see the points in a graphing tool. So let's go to Desmos. So if you're on your computer, let's go to where Desmos is. So I'm actually going to pull up this screen and go directly to www.desmos.com. This is the screen that should pop up. Hit Start Graphing. So once you click on Start Graphing, this is the window that should pop up. Okay? Now, it said it wanted us to plot those points. So let's go plot those points. So how do you do that? Do you see there's a plus sign up to the left up here? My cursor is over the plus sign. Click on the plus sign. And you see there's a table. There's your XY table. Click on XY on the table, and it opens up a little column, and you can put the X value and the Y value and the X value and the Y value. So plug each one of these in. So while you're plugging them in, I'm going to plug them in also. So we had a -3, comma, as input, and my output was -27. If you tab down or cursor down, it'll get you to the next slot in your table. So I got -2 to the third power, you said was -8, -1, to the third power is -1. 0 to the third power is 0. 1 to the third power is 1. And 2 to the third power is 8. And 3 to the third power is 27. Alrighty? So you just put all your values. Tell me if you got all your values in. You got all yours in your table? Okay. Keep plugging them in. While you're plugging yours in, you should be able to see all the points, the dots for each point that you put in. Do you see all of yours yet? Some of you may, some of you may not. Mine, I don't. Why? My window's not big enough, so I can't see all my points. So you can either zoom in or zoom out, or you can change the window to how big you want the window to be. So yes, zooming in and out is the plus and the minus sign. So here's the zoom. Oh, that was the wrong way. So if I hit the minus sign, it zooms me back in. Now I can see more points. But let's change the axis so we can see them the way we want to see them. So you see your wrench in the top right corner? You see a wrench? Click on your wrench. And do you see where it says x-axis? There are two numbers underneath there. Here's a number for the smallest number on your x-axis, and on this side you need to put the largest number that you want on your x-axis. Okay? Down here for your y-axis, you can put the smallest number that you want on your y-axis and then the largest number you want on your y-axis. So here's the question. How do you determine what you want your x-axis numbers to be? Well, look at your smallest x-axis number. What's the smallest number of your input values? -3. What's the largest number of your input values? +3. So your x-axis, again, I can't reach it from here to here, should be at least -3 to +3. Yeah, at least that wide. So I usually go a little bit above, unless it's specifically when you start graphing in the homework, it's going to give you specific. Do this and this one for X and Y, for the X and Y. It's going to tell you specifically what the range needs to be. So for this one, I'm going to put in -6 to +6. Why? Because I just want to go a little bit above my numbers. Now, let's do the y-axis. What's my smallest y value? -27. What's my largest y value? What do you think I should make my y-axis be? I would do the -30 to 30. So you put those numbers in here. That's 30 and a +30. Alrighty. If you click off of it, it'll leave those. Now, can you see all the points that you put in? You should be able to. And if you want to see them in bold, if you click projector mode, see where my cursor is? Click projector mode, and it just makes the graph in bold so that you can see the points better. Now, it said to plot the points and then draw a curve to connect the dots. Well, what equation did they give us that we created these points from?
X, y equals.
Underneath here, down here, see where it says a number 2? It's got a number 2 slot way down underneath your table. If you click in that spot, it gives you a blank box, a blank spot for you can put in whatever you want to put there. We're going to type the equation that you were given. So literally type y equals to x to the third power. Now, how do you do third power? You can use your caret or your above the 6 key. There should be a little triangle above, not triangle, but a little house top above your number 6 key on your keyboard, on your physical keyboard. You can do that, or if you click on see the keyboard here on the screen? If you click on the keyboard, it pops the keyboard up, and you see you've got a squared and you got a to the b power. A to the b power lets you pick whatever exponent you want to plug in. So if I click here, then see it put it up there, but I didn't put an x value in yet. So let me go back and put my proper value in for x. So I'm going to backspace that out, put in x, then hit my exponent button and put a 3 there. Were you able to do that? Okay, so all I did was type y equals, put an x, and then I hit this button right here. And that allowed me to put a 3 or 4 or 5, whatever number you want to put is the exponent. So guess what it did? You can, if you click off of here, it'll close your keyboard. Alrighty, did it connect the dots? Yes, that equation connected the dots for you. Easy, right? Okay, in the homework, it's gonna give you some equations, and it's gonna give you what it wants you to put in for the X and Y axis values. And then you determine if that's a good window for the curve that you need to see. If I had only putting in my X values to be from -1 to +1, would I have seen this entire curve? No. So they're going to ask you questions about whether or not you can see the whole curve based upon the equation and what they gave you for the X and Y values for the axis. Questions? Yes.
In a step, I don't have it just shows it on the number 2, it doesn't show it on the graph.
When you say on the number 2,
Right here, where you see where you put the,
right here?
yeah, it shows that it did the little, graphing, but not on the actual graph.
So let me see if your window's right. So the question, did you go and change your X?
I think I did.
Okay, so go back and look here at your window again. Go to your wrench
Oh, okay.
and look and see. Your number should say -6 to +6. And down here for the Y-axis should say -30 to +30.
I missed that step.
Okay, so once you put those in, it'll show exactly the same thing that I have on my screen.
How do you make it connect with that?
Type the equation. See the equation right here in this box right
I
here?
typed it, it's showing
What you got?
a caution, like a.
Okay, caution. What happens if there's a caution button? So let's see if I do something. My caution button popped up. What happens when there's a caution sign? It means you didn't type something in right. Somewhere something's wrong. If you get that caution sign, something's not right in your equation. You got it? Okay, just always know if it pops up a caution sign, something is not right. All right, so I'll put my 3 back there. So there it is. Questions about how to use this graphing tool? So far, so good? Okay, so let me go back to the PowerPoint again. So here we were on our PowerPoint. All right, so we completed that assignment. Here is your practice. Ready? Your turn. You've got 4 bullets with 4 equations. What we want you to do is actually go to Desmos, type each one of them, and they give you the X and Y values they want you to plug in. So for the X-axis for the first one, you're going to put in -10 to +10. For the Y-axis, you're going to do -10 to +30. For the first equation. Once you got the first equation and you can see the graph on the screen, go to the second bullet and type in the second equation, and you've got your X-axis from -5 to +5, and your Y-axis is -10 to +30. Please start those now. Once you're done with one, go to the next one, and so forth and so on until you get done with all 4. It's just to give you an opportunity to practice putting them in Desmos yourself. If you don't put the window, if you don't make your X-axis and your Y-axis like they got it, you're not going to see the curve like it's supposed to be. Or you're not going to see whatever the graph is supposed to look like. Questions?
When you say, -10, so -10, 10,
Okay, so those numbers that you see right there go under here. So here's what I want to make sure we're on the same page. See what's in the brackets? They don't go in the table. I literally want you to type the equation and then go click on your wrench and put those numbers where we clicked on the wrench. So you're supposed to.
Okay.
You got it now? Okay, so hold on, let me go back to Desmos. You're supposed to go over here and click on your wrench and change those numbers for the X-axis for the first one from -10 to +10, and then change your Y-axis. But you just type the equation. Delete all the other stuff we had up here on this. Delete that. Now type in the new equation that they gave you.
all right, Roger.
You got it? Okay.
Can you go back to
The PowerPoint, yes. All right, there's your PowerPoint. Everything you see in the brackets, go under the wrench. Go to the section where the wrench is. Yes. Yes, the first bracket is always the X value. Second bracket is the Y value. So you should have 2 numbers for the X value and 2 numbers for the Y value. Once you can see that it looks like the shape that it's supposed to look like, you can go on to the next one. So let me give you an idea of what these shapes are supposed to look like so you can know if you got them right or not. All right, here's what the first shape should look like. For the first equation, you should look like this. That's your graph. Second equation, your graph should look like, there's a picture, like this. Third equation, weird looking. It should look like this. Let's see if I can draw it right. It should look something like that. The third equation. And the fourth equation should look something like this. Once you get all of those, you know you got them right. That's the shape that you should see on your graph for each one of those. If you get that right picture, go on to the next one. Doesn't have to look perfect like mine, but it should look close to the shape of what I wrote on the board. So the first one is a straight uphill line. The second one is a little squiggly. The third one is a squiggly. And the fourth one is an upside down U shape. So, yes. Type your equation in first. X plus 20. You'll need to shift. You're gonna put shift. There you go. There you go. And then 20. Okay. Now let's do. Okay. Click on it. Alrighty. Yep. Change those numbers. You put in negative 10 to positive 10. You just happen to do it.
I don't know, I keep adding to the equation.
He's deleting it, but, okay, let's go ahead and put our, put your, mark your X and Y axis in first. I wanna see,
Put it in here.
go ahead and put that in first. I wanna see if it's gonna change something. Let me see what you created. X and Y axis. Alright, so that does give you red. Axis numbers you got checked. Alright, so.
Oh, so I put them here instead of here, I'm putting them in the
No, 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 I'm doing your next one, I just wanna see if it's gonna change anything. You guys are done, just hold tight a second, I wanna see. That one, and we're gonna put 30 here. What I am curious about is it's not showing you the grid. Remember, my up and down lines.
Right.
That shouldn't matter. Alright, so that's okay, so this was. Okay. So positive 10. Alright, there you go. Alright, now go put your equation in, let me see. It just took it out. Go ahead, let's see. No, it cleared the
okay.
box, but go ahead. So y equals x plus 20 again? Y equals x plus 20. Okay, there you go.
So I didn't have to do anything.
You did, but we did it first.
Okay.
I put this in first, and then I typed it, then you typed the equation.
Okay, so that's how I
So
need
try
to-
that one with yours, yeah. I don't know why it got rid of your, I'm not sure why it's getting rid of your
It's
equation.
doing the same
Mine does
thing.
the same.
Mine is too.
Okay, so for some reason, I'll have to look at you guys and see, but you end up, for some of you, you're having to actually go in and put your, so let me go back to, here again. For some of you, you're having to go in and actually put your X and Y axis values in first and then go type the equation. I can't explain that. I've never had that happen before. So I don't know if there's a specific setting that it's requiring you do, but go do that first. Put your X and Y axis values in and then go type your equation over here and see what your graph looks like. I can't explain why I did that. It should not get rid of it when you go change it like that. I'm trying to see if there's any settings over here that would make that different. So yours are all, yep, you got the same things that I have. It shouldn't change it. Alrighty. Did you guys get these pictures? For those of you that are finished, did you get all these pictures?
Well, I'm not at
There's a third one?
4.
On the fourth one? Hold on, let me put it back up there on the screen. All right, there we go. Did everybody figure out how to type number 3 in?
Yes.
What did you do to get a division line? If you just do the slash is the same thing as the division line. That it'll pop it up just like you see it. Questions? Okay, so this is all that you have to do to practice with these. So again, once you put them in, you should be able to see the picture. I have the picture on the board, so you can take this back and actually practice this a little bit later. You guys do have this PowerPoint, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure you do have the PowerPoint. So if you didn't finish typing each one of these in, go back and do that again. Make sure you get these 4 pictures, Make sure you get these 4 pictures so that you'll know you typed it in right and you set your window to the proper measurement. Alrighty? Any other questions? Because I know you need to practice those. Any other questions before I go to the next slide? All right, here we go. Next slide says, we're talking about word problems. Alrighty. Did we go through the steps for how to solve a word problem? We did. Those steps that I gave you. So we're going to still start with the steps that we did before. What was step 1? Read the problem. We're going to read the first paragraph first before we go into the bullets to make sure we understand the topic and every word in the problem. All right, let's read. The number y, meaning y is representing a number in the millions of women in the workforce. And that is given by the function y equals 0.006 to the 2 power minus 0.018 times x plus 5.607, where x is the number of years after 1900. Alrighty, do we understand the topic? We just read it. Sometimes you have to read things multiple times, but I just want to make sure. What's the topic that we're talking about now?
The number of
Women in the workforce. That's the topic. That's the conversation. We're having a conversation about the number of women in the workforce. Alrighty? And y, the letter y, the variable y, represents the number of women in the workforce in the millions. Alrighty? So here's the question. You read the problem, right? Do you understand it? Did I hear yes for everybody? Yes. Okay. What was the second thing I want to make? The next thing, after you understand it, we have to decide what did they give you in this problem? What do you know from reading this problem?
X equals the number of years after 19.
Okay, so we did number 1, we did number 2, number 3 is what's given. So you said we are given X is equal to what? The number of
years after 19.
Okay, the number of years after 1900. Okay. Did they give you a Y?
Yes.
What's Y? What does the Y mean? Number of women in the workforce. Okay, so they gave you number of women in the workforce, and it's going to be in the millions. Women in the workforce. I didn't write that in the workforce.
They gave us an equation.
And they gave you an equation. All right, so what's the equation they gave us? Y equals 0.006 x to the 2 power 0 minus 0.018 x plus 5.607. All right, now, based upon that, we have done the first 3 steps. We know we're given. What is it that we're going to do? What math should be performed? Now, in order to answer that question, I need you to, at every word problem, they're going to ask you to do something. Bullet number 1 wants you to do something. What does it want us to do? Okay, all righty. So, they gave us another piece of information for step 4. What was the additional piece of information that they gave you in bullet 1? They told you x equals 44. So now, based upon x equals 44, what do they want you to do?
44.
How you going to find it? How you going to find it? What should you do in order to find the answer? Plug in. All right, number 4. Plug in plug in x equals 44 into the what?
Equation.
Into the equation. Step 5, do the math. All right, go ahead. Do the math. On your calculator, everywhere there's an x, you put a 44.
Don't do it in decimal.
It doesn't really matter where you do it as long as you do it on the calculator. For test purposes, you need to do it on your calculator. And the only reason I'm asking you to do it on your calculator because here's how I do my test. Usually, I will have a couple of problems where I'm gonna say use Desmos or use your graphing tool, and then I'm gonna tell you to close your laptop. So what you'll need the graphing tool for, I'm gonna allow you to use it. But some things won't require a graphing tool. So I'm just saying make sure you can still use your calculator to calculate whatever we need to do. So I would say yes, do still practice it with your calculator. So with that said, did you plug it in?
I got, 16.431.
Okay, so when you plugged in 44, the answer you got for y is equal to 16.431. Now, question, in the homework, it's gonna ask you for an answer like this. It will tell you how many decimal places it wants. So if it says the 10th place, how many decimal places is that? 1. If it says the 100th place, the 1000th place, okay, so it'll tell you specifically how many decimal places it wants. So we're gonna leave this 3 decimal places. Does this say that there are 16 women in the workforce?
No, 16 million.
16.43 million women in the workforce. When? What year is that then? 19 what? 19 what? 1944. You said it was 44 years after 1900, so what year would that be? 1944. So we have just figured out that in 1944, there were 16.43 women in the workforce.
I didn't get that calculation.
So when you did it, did you do your calculator? Because it's very important that you be able to put this in your calculator correctly. So when you put it in there, did you type in and here,
It's a complicated,
your calculator?
it's kind of complicated.
Okay, so here's the question that I'm going to ask you. When you type this in, and I'm going to go back to my calculator, here's what I use on the screen. This is called web2.0calc.com. This is what I use when I'm in class. Web2.0calc.com. And I like it because, and you won't be able to use it on the test, you still got to use your calculator. But it lets me see what I type. So when you decide what calculator you need, you want to be able to see what you type, and if you hit enter, it doesn't disappear. So whatever calculator you choose to get, or if you've already gotten one, it's nice to have one that what you type on the screen stays there even after you hit enter. So in this particular case, I'm going to type in 0.006. Somebody read the rest of that to me. Times what?
44.
Times 44
Squared.
raised to the 2 power, okay? Minus 0.018 times 44,
Yeah.
okay? Point, is my point in there? Too many points, 607. All righty, did you type that in your calculator?
I'm getting ready to write it down, hold up.
Okay, now, I'm assuming depending on the calculator you have, it'll know parentheses means times. Or you just hit the times button. So it just depends on, you gotta play with your calculator to see if I put 44 parentheses 56, does it give me the answer? That way you'll know if your computer knows that when they see the parentheses there, it means times. Notice mine automatically put the time symbols between it as it rewrote it. So now I know if I typed it right. I can look up here and see, did I type in everything here right? Now I can hit enter. Once I hit enter, here we go. There's my answer, and I still have everything that I did in my calculator still on the screen so I can see it. Just in case I had a typo. Questions? So we're right. So that's how you, now see what's at the top of the screen? You literally can type it in your calculator exactly like you see it at the very top of the screen. Literally, if you type everything just like you see it at the top of the screen, that should give you the perfect answer that you should have. Your calculators usually automatically know to do please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. It just depends on how you type it in. But if you type it like that, it's gonna know what it's supposed to do first. It knows to do 44 squared first. You got what I'm saying? It's supposed to already know how to do that. All right, questions? Okay, so you still got to practice on using your calculator when it comes to that. So let me go back to the PowerPoint where we were. All righty, so we finished with bullet number 1. In English, that just basically said, for the answer that we came up with, is that in 1944, there was 16.431 million women in the workforce. Are you okay with that answer? Okay. All right, how about bullet number 2? It says use the model. When it says model, it means the equation that we created or that they gave us. They gave us a model that's modeling this information that we're talking about, and that's the equation that they gave you. So when it says use the model, it's talking about the equation. Use the equation to find the number of women in the workforce when? Okay, so now are you going to plug the number 2010 into that equation?
No.
Why not?
Because
That's not representing.
Okay, X is representing what again? What did we say X was?
Number of years
After 1900. So what you going to do to figure out what X is?
Subtract 1900 from 2010.
Okay, so all right, subtract 2010 and 1900. Tell me what that number is. X equals 110, and then what do you do? All right, plug in 110. All right, go back to your calculator again. And everywhere there was a 44, change it to a 110. Everywhere you had a 44, replace it with 110. Okay, I'm going to go back to my calculator and do the same thing. This calculator, the wonderful thing I like about it is whatever you typed in there before, if I click down here at the bottom, it'll re-put it back up in the window so I don't have to go type the whole entire thing all over again. I can just change my 44s to 110. And then I'll hit enter. Is that what you got?
Yes.
How many women were in the workforce in 2010?
76,127
Million. Wonder how many women in the workforce today? Ain't nobody home with the children. Okay, all right. Questions? All right, you're okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see that even when you're at home, you can use this web tool to actually use as your calculator. The good thing about using this tool, when you do it on this tool, now go back and put it in your actual calculator. Because you know you can see what you typed in here. Go back and actually put it in your physical calculator and make sure what's up there matches what's on your calculator. That way you'll know where you're making your mistakes because you can see it on the screen very easily what you typed in. All righty, questions? All righty, back to the PowerPoint again. Are we done with that one? So let's see, next question. Do we understand what Y represented? Yes. Remember, in every word problem, you got to understand what everything means in the entire word problem. Did you understand what the X represented? Okay. Any other questions about what Y and X represent as a function? No? Okay. All righty. We're okay with this asking us the same kind of questions again. Make sure we are sure that we understand the question. All righty. So here's the next one. Next part. All right. Another word problem for us to do. We did say this was a word problem class, right? Mm-hmm. Everything that we do will relate right back to something that you can show how it's used in real life. That was an example of a function that we could use in real life. What's the whole purpose of why we would even use functions like the one we just did? Why have a word problem like that? Why would we ever need to know what that information is? No, think about it logically. Why would anybody want to know how many women in the workforce? For purposes of what? I mean, just think about it. Is it affecting our children being educated? How many women in the workforce? Are they taking jobs from other people? Are they taking jobs from more men? Are they taking jobs from other? Just all kinds of questions you can ask yourself. We want to know does it affect the insurance because more women are working now? What things get affected by more women being in the workforce? I'm just saying there are organizations that want to know that information and they want to know how that information impacts our society. So yes, there are people who want to know that information. So let's go to the next one and see what that one talks about. Let's read it and see what it says. the function P equals 5.8 times T plus 7.13 gives the percentage of households with internet access as a function of T, and T is the number of years after 1995. All right, question. Did you understand that topic? I mean, generally the topic is what? Household with internet access. Are we talking about the number of households or the percentage of households? All right, so why did they choose the variable P? For percentage. And they chose T instead of X. So can you see instead of X and Y, they chose T and P? Okay, so usually in this class, for most part, whenever you see the letter T, it's always time. Minutes, seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, years. T will always be time. And if ever you see time, that's always your input. Okay, so we understand the topic. All right, so we read the problem. We understand all the words in the problem. All the words you understand. Is there any word that you don't understand what that word means? Okay, all right. Then, the next question was, what did they give us?
They gave us an equation.
Okay, they gave us an equation. So we're back to step 3. They gave us an equation. So that's one thing they gave us. That was the P equals 5.8 times T plus, what's that? 7.13. All right, what else did they give us? T is what?
The number of years after 1995.
Okay, T is a number of years after 1995. All right, did they give us anything else? Did they tell us what T represented? What's P? Okay, so I'm just gonna put the percent symbols. Percent of households with internet access. Okay. Alrighty. Alrighty. So now we know what's given. Now we can go and see what are you being asked to do. In bullet number 1, what are they asking you to do?
What are the values of T that correspond to the years 1996 and 2014?
All right. So here is the question. Do you understand what they just asked you to do?
They want you to tell them what T represents from 1996 to 2014.
Okay, I like that answer. They want you to know what is T when we're talking about those 2 years. What is T? Did they ask you for the P value? Did they say what's the percent? No, they specifically asked you. All they're trying to do is make sure you understand what does T mean. They're trying to figure out, do you understand what T is? T is the number of years after 1995. So if that's the case, 1996 is how many years after 1995? 1 year. So in that case, for 1996, T equals 1. Did you get what we just did? They just want to make sure you understand how to figure out what T is. Okay? So if they say 1996, T is 1. For 2014, what would T have to be? What do you have to do to figure out what T is? Okay, subtract what 2 numbers?
1995 to 2014.
Okay, so you're going to do 2014 minus 1995. Somebody do the math. How much is that? You said how much? 19? So that means that T equals 19 years. For 2014, T equals 19 years. And all you had to do was subtract 1995 from 2014. So we now know that T was equal to 1 for 1996, and T is equal to 19 for 2014. That just answered bullet number 1. They only wanted to make sure you understood what T was. What you thinking?
I don't know, I was thinking of subtracting 2014 from 1996.
Why?
That's,
But they didn't say what 1996 don't have nothing to do with what T is. Look at what the definition of T is. What is the definition of T?
the number of years.
After what?
1995.
So, how many years is 1996 after 1995? So when you do a comparison and trying to figure out which one, you can only compare 1996 to this number, not the 2 numbers to each other. You see what I'm saying? Did that make sense? You can't compare 1996 and 2014. They don't have anything to do with each other. You only can compare the number to whatever this number is. So when you compare, you gotta subtract those two. So you subtract the 1996 and 1995, and you get 1. And you subtract the 2014 and 1995, and you end up with 19. Okay? So you're never gonna have to subtract those two numbers together that they give you. All right, bullet number 2. P is equal to F of 10. They're saying the percentage is the same thing as the function when you evaluate it or plug in a 10. The percentage is the same thing as if you plug in a 10. So again, here's the question that I want to ask you. When you plug a number in, whatever you get a function of, here's my function, and they plugged in a 10, what you going to do with that 10? Plug it into the equation. This number always gets plugged into the equation. Is it an input or output? It's input. You plugging it in, so it's input. This number is always input. It always gets plugged into something. So it wants to know now. It says for P equals F of 10 gives the value of P for what year? So the first question, does it want a year or a percentage?
A year.
Okay, it wants a year. So all it's trying to do again is make sure you understand what T is. This is input. What was input over here? Remember? This is your input. What was your output? Percentage is output. So if you're talking about input, we're talking about years, the number of years. If you're talking about output, I need percent. So for 10, what year would that be?
2006.
How did you get that number?
Added those years to 1995.
Okay, so everything happens after 1995. So take the 10 and add it to 1995. What year would that be again?
2005.
2005. Now the second question in that bullet number 2 says, now tell me, what's F of 10 equal to? What you gonna do? Go plug it in. All right, so let's go plug it in. So now if we go plug this in, I've got P is equal to F of 10. I'm gonna plug in that 5.8 times 10 plus 7.13. Somebody do the math, tell me what that is. 65.13 what? Percent. All right, so tell me what you just figured out in English.
The percent.
Make it easy, don't make it hard.
10 years after 1995, the percentage of households that had internet access was 65.13%.
Yeah. 10 years after, which was 2005. So in 2005, 65.13% had internet access. That's just what that says in English, in plain English. Questions about it. Now here's the question. Can you do this on your own? Because that's the question that you have to ask yourself as we go through these. Can you do this on your own as we walk through these? Every time you work a word problem, it's going to ask you for an input or output. In the first bullet, which one did it ask you for? Look at the first bullet. It asked you for what? T or P? T. Which one is T? T is a input. All righty. Second bullet. What was the first part of that question asked you for? Look at the first part of the second bullet. First part of the second bullet. It says for what year? Look at the end of that question for the second bullet. The first. Yeah, it says for what year. So I'm just reading here is where I'm actually pointing to. Let me point here. Here is the end of the first question in bullet 2. It says for what year. So if we're talking about years, is that input or output? Input. Okay, if it's asking you what year, we're always talking about input. If it asks you for the percent, we're talking about output. So in that first half of that question, it wants to know an input value. In the last half, they want an output value. So they had you go plug it in. Every word problem will be asking you for X or Y or T or P or input or output. So the question is, as you read a word problem, can you tell me if they're asking you for input value or output value? And you got to be able to figure out that based upon the question. If it says for what year, you're looking for input values. If it says percent, you're looking for output value, which is based upon the topic of the conversation. Let's go ahead and look at that last bullet. The last bullet says for what X minimum, where you see min, it means minimum. What's the X minimum and the X maximum should be used to set the viewing window so you can see what T represents for 1995 to 2015. So it's saying, if you go to Desmos, what should you set your window for the X-axis to be for 1995 and 2015? Is it asking you for T values or percent values? T values. It wants to know for 1995 and 2015, what are the T values?
So negative.
So would it be
Well, look at the first number. What's the first number?
1995?
And then I'm just saying, yeah, up here, the first number you see at the very bottom of this screen is 1995.
Yeah.
What does 1995 have to compare itself to? This 1995 over here. What's the difference? How many years is 1995 after 1995? Zero. When you subtract those two numbers, you get zero.
Yeah.
Okay? How many years is 2015 after 1995? You got to subtract those two numbers. What do you get?
20.
Okay. So, what's the window need to be in Desmos for you to see from 1995 to 2015? 0 to 20. They don't want you just to type 1995 on one end of the screen and 2015 on the other end. They want you to use the T values. Yes. We can when we, it should be, that's why as you see me doing this, you're going to see problems just like this on the homework. Just like it. So yeah, to hold on to that problem and see if I can get to it before we get, when we get to the end. We should be at the end of this one. So that's what I'm saying here. As you do these, we got to be able to figure them out so that you understand exactly what we meant to do. So let me stop and pause for a second. What are you thinking right now?
Okay, what do you want us to do exactly? I'm confused with the last, what X minimum and, do we put it in the graphing tool? What?
It just wants to know that you went over and took 1995 and subtracted it from 1995, and you got 0 for your first answer. And then it wanted you to go take 2015 and subtract 1995, and you got, whoops, that should be a 5, and you got 20. Those are
That's
your
all it's asking.
That's all it's asking.
See, that's right.
So the question was, remember I said, are they asking you for T values or P values? Are you looking for time in years, or are you looking for percentages? Which one did it ask you for in that last bullet? Time in years. It says, for what year? So here, I got 0 years to how many years? 20 years. You got to be able to see what are they asking me for. If they were asking me for percentages, then I want to know what households in 1995, what were the households that had internet access? What would I be plugging in for 1995? That's a very good question. If I want to know what's the percentage of households with internet access in 1995, what do I plug into that equation? 0, because 1995 after 1990, there's 0 years. So you got to plug in 0. You got to plug in 0. And if we say 2015, what year, what you going to plug into the equation if I ask you how many people had, or what percent had internet access in 2015? 20. I plug in 20. And but of course, they didn't ask us that question in that particular one, but that's exactly what you would be doing. Alrighty, let me see that particular one. I'm going to pull it up here on the screen. For that particular one, let's see, where am I? That's 1.2? What number? Whenever I go to the homework, it's always a good idea for you to go there as well. That way you'll get to see that same problem. Yes?
Okay, with the homework, so all that's due, all these assignments assignments are due February 1st?
I pushed them out because I didn't know what day we'd actually talk about each one of them. So here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to wait till February the 1st. I just pushed the date out so that you would have time to get each one of them done. So that, you see what I'm saying? I didn't date it so that one's due day after tomorrow and the next one's due 2 days after that. I just said, look, I'll just push everything out just so I can make sure I cover everything. And if I need to push it out again just because it's where we haven't covered it yet, then I'll do that as well.
And the quizzes, maybe I missed something on the quizzes. I know you say you pushed them.
I haven't pushed them out yet, but I am. So they're gonna get pushed out as well.
Also, after you finish your assignments, then you go and you take the quiz,
Yes.
when it's due.
Yes.
Before you can take.
Before
the
it's,
quiz due.
or before the due date.
Before the due date.
Yes, but as long as you take them before the due date, it doesn't matter when, as long as it's before the due date. I just don't want you to wait till, one of the reasons why some professors have just said, hey, everything due April 30th. And what happens every single time is that people wait till the last minute and try to do all the assignments in 1 week, and that's just not practical. So that's what I'm saying. Don't wait till February 1st and try to do all that's due on February the 1st. Go ahead and do the first one now. Do the second one once it's still fresh on your mind. That's all I'm saying.
You have to go all the way down the page to see the quizzes, just so that.
Yes, they will not pop up.
No.
Yeah.
Until I started scrolling down.
Here is what I'm gonna say. Every single semester, I didn't see the quiz. I didn't know the quiz was due. The only thing that quizzes pop up is when you see the clock. The way this tool was created, I can't tell you why they don't let us put the quizzes here, just the homework. So the only way you know there's a quiz due is a clock pops up right there. Right now, that date is where I'm gonna change those dates. So I'm just saying, look for the clocks up here up top. Every day there's a quiz, a clock pops up here.
So basically, we really don't have anything to do in D2L. Everything is on McLab?
Yes,
Okay,
nothing. You never have to go back to D2L ever again.
okay.
Once you got your all access, everything done, you never ever have to go back to D2L. Okay, what number was that one again? If you guys are in it,
1.2.
hold on, let me log back in.
Well, because question number 1, I got partial points for that because I didn't know how to do the window on the data loans at first.
Gotcha. And also, let me say a couple of things about that while we are in there. Hold on, this is the 330 class. Alrighty, so for 1.2, let's look at a couple of them. A couple of these you got to figure out, and I'm going to show you this. Since we're on this one, I need to show you these couple of things. Alright, it's going to ask you to type in all the values like we did on the first PowerPoint slide. Then it's going to ask you to plot the points on the actual graph. How do you plot them? There'll be a window that's going to pop up. I'm just going to put these numbers in so you can see what's going to happen. Okay, so that's negative 20 and negative 30. Negative 8 and minus 3 is negative 11. Negative 4. Negative 3. 1. Negative 2. 8 and 3 is 5. 24. All right, let's see if I did those right in my head. All righty, so let's check okay, we okay? All right, so all I did, now of course I'm expecting you, if you need to use your calculator, to do exactly what it said. Did it give you an equation?
Yes.
Did you see the equation? You didn't see the equation? Here was the equation. Just like the first box, the first thing I did, I plugged each one of those numbers for X into that equation up there. And I just did the math in my head. Use your calculator if you need to. And then I plug these answers in over here. So I'm done with that step. Now it says use the graphing tool to graph that function. All it's going to do is connect the dots. So we got to put some dots over here so it'll connect. So can you see that it opened up a graph over here? All righty. If you click on it, it makes it larger, which I need it to be larger. Now, the question is, how do you decide what points to plot? You can pick any points you want, but before you do that, you got to decide which one of these little doohickeys you want to click on. Is your graph going to be a picture of a straight line? Is it going to be a picture of a U-shaped curve? Is it going to be a V? Is it going to be this squiggly? Is it going to be a circle? So let me give you some basics that you need to know in order to figure out which one you want to do. If it's y equals x, could be x plus or minus anything. It's going to be a straight line. If it's y equals x to the 2, it's gonna be this curve or that curve. If it's y equals x to the 3rd power, it's gonna look something like that. So those are the 3 most important ones that you'll need. So based upon your equation, which one of these did we need for the equation that you have? We need this little one right here. So you would not have necessarily known what the pictures look like. This is always gonna look like a straight line. Doesn't matter if it says 2x plus 5, it's always gonna be a straight line. If it has x to the 2 power, always gonna be a U-shaped curve. If it's x to the 3 power, it's always gonna look something like this. So now that tells you what picture to pick. So over here, pick this one, because that's what that shape is gonna look like. Click on it. Come back over to your graph. Do you see in yellow these numbers are changing as I move around the graph? Plot any 3. Do you see 3 dots over here? Do you see the 3 dots?
Yes.
You gotta plot 3 of the points in your XY table. Just 3. Maybe she's at 3 or 4?
4.
That's 4, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is 4. So if it has 3 points on that curve or 4 points on that curve, you gotta plot 4. So go over here and pick 4 points from over here to plot. So I'm gonna pick -2, 11. So I'm gonna go over to -2, up 11, or down 11. How do I know if I got it right? Look in the yellow box. If it doesn't say -2, 11, I ain't got it right. So once you get it, click it. And it moves, so let me put it back where it's supposed to be. Click it. Now go do another one. Pick any 4 that you want. I'm going to pick the -1, -4. So I'm going to go -1, -4. I'm over too many. Alrighty? I'm over too many still. Click it. Now go find another point. I'm going to do 0, -3. So 0, -3. Click it. And then I'm going to do 1 over 1 down -2. 1, -2. Click it. And there's your curve. So you've got to put 4 points that you just scroll, and when you get on it, hit the click button, left click, to plot each of the 4 points. You had to have 4.
So, okay. So you know how at first you were saying choose what graph, like what line you gonna use?
Mhm.
Well, when I did mine, I just chose anyone, but it still came out with the, like in the end, it still gave me that.
That's surprising. Which one did you pick? You just picked straight line? Which one did you pick?
I picked just a straight line.
You picked the straight line? Okay. I've never seen it do that before. I've learned something new every semester. I didn't know it would let you pick the straight line. It's a good practice to try. Pick one and see if it lets you pick the other one. I didn't know it would let you do that. Because then you don't know how many points to plot. Like, did you know how many to plot? Well, how many did you plot?
I plotted it based on the chart, based on the table.
Did you do all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you did all of them.
No, I did not. The one with the -30 and the 24, I didn't.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. The only reason I knew how many points to plot is I looked at the dots on this curve. If it gave me 4 dots, I plotted 4 points. You just plotted all of yours. So I'm not saying it's wrong to plot all of them. I'm just saying you don't have to. To get that curve, you don't have to plot all of them. You only needed 4. But because you probably plotted almost all of them, and the only reason why you can't do, why can't you do the -3 and the 30? -30. It ain't on the chart. You can't even see it up here. It goes up to +14 and -14. So you can't even do the top point and the bottom point. You can't even do it because it's not enough space on the graph. Okay? So I'm just saying, just kind of pick the right little doohickey as you know which one you're doing. Alrighty, so now if we save it and check it to see if it's right. There we go. Now, here's another thing that I didn't show you guys. If you click over here, I've opened this up. And did I tell you guys I've opened this up? Yeah. Okay, so good. So at least you know you can go over here and view an example, and it should walk you through what to do if you view an example. So that is open for you to see. Some professors close it and they don't let you use it. It is open for you to use it. So if you do get stuck on one, you're like, wait, what did we do in class? Go back and look at the example. It'll walk you through exactly one just like what you have. They'll change the numbers, but they'll still walk through the exact same thing. Okay, So notice mine is similar, only it's y equals x to the third minus 6 instead of minus 3. But it's still gonna walk you through the same thing. What was the other problem that you had questions about?
It was, question
Number
number 5.
5. All right, let's see where number 5 is. Yes, I wanna leave.
About, the X minimum.
Okay, x minimum, y minimum just wants to know what the, how wide do you want your x-axis to be? All righty. So look what they gave you. Did they give you an equation? Yes. And they said for the x values between negative 11 and positive 11. So it gave you the x values. It told you to make the x-axis be from negative 11 to positive 11. What it didn't say is, what do you think the y value should be? So it wants you to pick what the y value should be. You got choices. You can do negative 20 to 110, negative 20 to 0, 0 to 110, or negative 10 to positive 10. You pick the one that looks like you got the most of your picture. You see what I'm saying?
So 20 to 1A.
Hold on.
Would that be A?
So here's my graph. I'm just drawing this on the screen here. Here's my graph in Desmos. So here you got to go over there and click on your little wrench thing, and it's going to tell you that the x-axis needs to be this and your y. So you're going to fill in these 2 slots from your wrench. So the number for what goes for the x-axis is going to be negative 11 to positive 11 in Desmos. So you can see what the picture is going to look like. Then they want to know in the brackets, what's the second set of numbers in the brackets that you need to pick to go here? Which ones do you want? See the first bracket? Negative 20 to here, to 110. You see that one? This one.
Yeah, I see it up here.
Okay, you got it? So do I put that here in my wrench? When I go to my wrench, do I put this? Or do I go to the second one and do I put this one in? Do I put negative 20 to 0? Or do I put the other one, 0 to 110? Do I put that in? So which one do you choose? How do you know what to choose? You got to actually go put it in the graphing tool and see which one gives you the most of the picture. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand now, because now you went over.
Okay, gotcha. So was it that you didn't know to go to your wrench and put these numbers in to see which one gave you the best picture? Okay, gotcha. Did that make sense, guys? You literally got to go to Desmos, type the equation, and put in all the versions of these x and y values to see which one gives you the best picture. And whichever one gives you the best picture, then that's how you pick A, B, C, or D. Yes?
Do we have to solve it like that?
You won't know what the window is going to. So in other words, it's saying there's a picture in here. And if you make it this is not the right window, then you may only see that much of the picture. What if the picture looks like this? And if I only put in this part of the window, I only get to see that part. What if I want to see all of it?
Okay, so let's just give you a range of X value between those two numbers. Could you not plug them into the equation?
That's not going to tell you what the window needs to be, though. So literally what I'm wanting you guys to do is take this equation, x3, 6x, 15. Let me go back to Desmos is what I'm getting to. Let me delete what I have here. Let me see if I got plus 6x. Was that minus 15? Hold on, I'm trying to see if I got this one typed in right. All right, let me go back to the homework real quick. Hold on a second. All right, so that was plus 6x squared minus 15x. All righty. All right, there's your equation. Now the question is, let's go and see what our wrench said we're supposed to have. So automatically, this should be a negative 11 to positive 11. That's a given. You got to put that in. The question is, what do I change these two numbers to? I got choices from A, B, C, and D. So the first one gave me negative 20 to 110. Was that it?
Yes.
So if I change it and put those in, can I see the whole curve? I can see a lot of it, but I won't know which one is the best one till I put the rest of them in. So now I got to go back and change the wrench again and change the values and put back in negative 20 to 0. One of them was 0, right?
Yes.
Negative 20, comma 0. Alrighty. Now, do I see enough of the picture?
No.
No. Then go back and change it to whatever the other numbers were. You keep changing these y values till you figure out which one gives you the best view of the graph. And whichever one gives you the best view, that's the one you're going to pick as your answer. What are you thinking? Does that make better sense now? Okay, all righty. All righty. So, did everybody sign in? Here's a sign-in sheet. Hold on, so let me make sure I got everything from that particular. All right, that's the end of 1.2. That's the end of 1.2. So when we come back on, what's the day? Today's Tuesday. So when we come back on Thursday, we'll finish 1.3 and get into 1.4. What time is this class in? 4:50? Oh, it's 2 minutes. Okay. Just checking because I forget sometimes. All right, so when we get to the next class, this will be the slide we'll start with. Linear functions, the slope, and the intercepts. So if you don't have any questions, you are dismissed. And those that are going to the support class, I'm headed over to, what's the number, 262? Yeah, 262, right out the doors and inside the other doors. If you have questions, just come. And let me stop this. No.